I think I'm saying that we struggle all our lives to answer it. That it's the struggle that is important. That's what helps us to define our place in the universe.
This is Beverly, Dr. Beverly, Dr. Beverly Crusher. Honest.
Forceful.
Trusting.
Brilliant.
Strong.
And adventurous.
And this is Crusher Combo.
Hello, guys, and welcome to Crusher Combo, where we are crushing the conversation one episode at a time. And tonight, Jay and I are going to review Season 2 of Star Trek Prodigy, starting with episodes 1 through 5. So, hey, Jay, how are you doing tonight?
Good. How are you?
Pretty good. I'm pretty excited about this, so let's see how it goes.
It's nice to talk about something a little lighter than Tuvix.
Oh, no, I was all like, this is going to be perfect for Jay. Of course, before we get started, I do want to mention real fast the sad passing of Patty Yasutake, who played Nurse Ogawa on The Next Generation. I was pretty bummed about this. I don't know about you, Jay, but it was, we've always talked about before about how the dynamic duo between Beverly and Alyssa was so great. Even though Beverly was her boss, they were really good friends. They trusted each other. As much as Suspicions has its issues, those two were pretty good. It's worth it just for that. So I just wanted to mention how sad I am about her passing. What's your favorite moment of Alyssa?
You know what? I just honestly, I think like almost every time that she was on camera, like she has this smile, right?
Yeah.
This big smile, and just I think every time that she flashed that big smile that she has was just great. Brought a lot of that positivity. And
it really helped put Beverly at ease, right? Yeah. My favorite part, though, was like in Suspicions, where Beverly is illegally trying to get to the autopsy files, and Alyssa catches her, and she's all like, I'm sure you want the autopsy of Joe Brill and was it Dr. Ranga? I think it was the Ferengi. And
I think so.
She was all like, I can't get you involved. She's like, is that an order, doctor? She's all like, yeah. She's like, good thing you're not my boss anymore. And I loved it. It's like perfect. And then she had that smile at the end where Beverly was like, thank you. Such good moments. And of course, they had good moments in Generations and First Contact. So it was nice to see her involved in those, even though they were, she was just a background character, but she was very pivotal, I think, to the stories. And of course, one of the best episodes was Lower Decks. So she was definitely pivotal in that story.
Yeah. And I mean, like a lot of the great characters in Star Trek are just background characters anyway. So, she was certainly there, and the dynamic of her and Bev was always really good. And, we've talked at length before about the underuse of the women in the TNG era. And I think that's a dynamic that could have been, if they had experimented it with more, would have been really cool.
It would have been good to see. Yeah. But anyways, let's go ahead and start off with this react and review, I guess we want to call it, with the first episode, which is Into the Breach Part 1.
You're not Janeway.
No, I'm the Doctor. An emergency medical holographic program and dear friend of the Admiral. Member of the Voyager crew. Hero of the Delta Quadrant. No? Nothing? Well, Catherine asked me to be your personal escort.
Oh, great! Yeah. There you go.
I said escort. I'm a doctor, not a butler.
So, of course, they had to throw that in there, right? It was nice seeing the Doctor. I think that was a good introduction. I did like how he was very like, Catherine, like, we're very close, and trying to push that in there. And the kids are like, we still don't know who you are, dude. I don't know what to tell you. It was nice seeing the kids, though, as the cadets. And of course, Dal, running away and wanting to do his own thing. Seemed like he was having a hard time following rules.
Yeah,
they
it
were
was,
there.
season one, it was all of them so badly wanted to be in Starfleet, right? And then I feel like
Yeah.
Dal doesn't feel like he fits
Hmm.
properly in the Starfleet mold, so he's kind of
Right.
that little montage where they're showing all of them get that message from Janeway at the beginning,
Yeah.
and his montage is that he's not even in class, right? He's an empty seat while they're taking attendance, and he's off just watching the ships
Yeah.
fly around, right?
He's dreaming of the stars, right? He wants to go back. And it's kind of like they almost kind of demoted themselves, right? Because season one, they were on this grand adventure trying to save the Federation. They were just nobody kids who had no idea what the heck was going on. And now that they got to where they're now a part of something, they have to take a step back and not be in charge like they used to. Like Dal was just able to like, we're going to do this, this, this. We're going to do it. No one's going to stop me. And now he has to follow the rules. Like he feels like he's equal and he's not. I think also too, I wasn't sure. I wrote about the intro of the Doctor and I went, his role was just very important to bring in the Doctor to help out the kids, because we know that Janeway is like busy. She's not the hologram. She's an admiral.
Yeah.
Like they can't just go walk up to her and talk to her. And I feel like that was a hard transition. The only one I think that was doing really well was Rock. She dreamed of this. She was so excited. And then of course, Jankum was trying to fit in by being different. Zero's having their, not sure where they fit in, right? And noticing how they wish they could have kind of like a companionship, right? And feelings and stuff like that. And then Murph is just Murph. Murph is just Murph.
Beating the crap out of stuff on the holodeck.
This is talking too soon right now, but like, of course, later on the season, it was, what is it? Chakotay saying, now I know why they call you security officer.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I do have to mention, I liked when Dal said timey wimey, because that got my Doctor Who heart.
I think that, and the other great line was Jankum when he said to the Doctor, he's like, okay, Doctor, but he said it like we would say, okay, Boomer.
Yeah.
Or, no, sorry. Okay, hologram. That's what it was.
Okay, hologram. Yeah. It's those little. Yeah, it was those little touches though that I think the brothers and Aaron and everybody that was involved really did well. Now I want to throw this into your side because I know you're just going to geek over this. But let's talk about the Voyager A. Go for it.
Yes, let's. I love that ship. I love it. It's like the perfect blend of like the Intrepid and the Sovereign class. If they had a baby.
Yeah.
It's
they had
the
a baby.
Lamar class. Yeah. It's the Lamar class. So I really, really like the ship. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but did we not see the Voyager A at the end of the last season? Because I thought we saw it. Or maybe it was just on the shuttle that we saw the registry on the shuttle or something. But I thought we've known.
Shuttle. No, I don't know.
Yeah. I thought we've known for a while that the Voyager A was coming. So I didn't feel like it was a big reveal. We knew it was all coming too because there were some screenshots of it.
Yeah,
that were purposely put out, right?
Yeah.
But I feel like Voyager A, and if they had kept the Doctor's appearance in this season a secret, that would have been cool too. I think that would have been
episodes.
No, just if we didn't know he was coming at all, and then when he come out of the shuttle, like we just watched, right? Would have been really cool.
That's true. Yeah, because it was a big surprise. Because last year when we were in Vegas, we weren't supposed to talk about the shows at all because it was during the strike, and somehow because it was a animated series and voiceovers, it was a little different. Like the rules are just low.
Yeah,
that's why they able to just be like, well, Robert's in it, you know what I mean? So, and I think that's where everyone saw the clip of
I think so. Yeah, I think so. It's been a year. Wow,
it's been a year. Oh, time flies, man.
Yeah, it does.
We're gonna be in Vegas.
Yes. Next year.
I know. I really want to mention though, real fast, as the kids are on the Voyager A and they're seeing anybody. the Nova Squadron and the bridge officers, which was, of course, the counselor and her number one, Janeway's number one, they were just rude.
They were
bullies. Like, just, I was pissed. I didn't like that.
Yeah. It was like you knew what these kids had done for Starfleet and the Federation as a whole, and yet we treat them kind of bad. But there's we don't want to jump too far ahead in the season yet, but there's some redemption later on, especially with the number one, right? So
yeah, I can kind of understand due to the fact that they were kids that Nova Squadron would probably be more jealous. They got in on their own accord. They're really good pilots, all this stuff, and then these kids are getting all this attention. Now, granted, they deserve the attention, but there might be some little bit of rivalry. I could see that. But why the bridge officers? They're adults to kids.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think it's probably a similar attitude that the Nova Squadron cadets had, where they just kind of like, who are these guys that are?
Who are these guys?
Here? Yeah. A bit of an entitled attitude.
I don't know. Exactly. Yeah. And what is it the counselor had said? He's like, this is for the bridge officers only, and slams them. And it's like, okay. I do like a little bit of the mention of Admiral Picard, because Janeway was all like, I promise Admiral Picard I won't destroy this one or get it lost in a Delta Quadrant. And I kind of want to mention the Cetacean Ops, where we see Rock at. They didn't introduce Jillian just yet. They were just kind of mentioning, like she had mentioned dolphins and things like that later on. But I wasn't expecting that, so I thought that was a nice little Easter egg, right? To bring that up from wasn't the Voyager home. It was, what was the fourth one?
The
movie?
Yeah, the one with the whales.
The one with the whales. I know. That's all. I can't remember the actual name of the movie.
It's the Voyage Home, yes. The Voyage
It
Home.
is the Voyage Home. Oh, I was correct. Well, pat myself on the back, because that just came up like that. Now,
you know what I did like about it was because on lower decks we've got Cetacean Ops also, but it's the dolphins, right? So it's kind of a smaller room, again, a smaller ship, but and then this one is a bigger ship, and we've got whales.
We got
like
whales,
big giant whales.
A big giant whale, which is perfect for Rock, right? Now, I do want to mention a little bit about Dal and Gwen's conversation. I thought it was really cute, because he was struggling and she picked up on it. She's like, "You're not having fun, are you?" And of course, she's nervous about what she has to go do. It's a big job. I thought it was a cute little scene, especially for Dal, because he was being very vulnerable to her.
Well, and I like the line where, because the screen freezes on him, right? And he thinks that she's just staring at him. And he even makes that line like, I'm being really vulnerable here and not getting much in return. And I'm like, that's good for you for being able to call that out and wear your heart on your sleeve like that, and then be like, hey, well, this is a two-way thing. Meanwhile, the transmission's just frozen.
It's just frozen. She's just like, and he didn't even catch up. He was so involved in like, please say something, that he didn't even notice that she wasn't blinking for the last 5 minutes. I also did like the little moment between the Doctor and Zero in sickbay, because the Bolian baby had been born, and Zero was feeling like, I wish I could, feel things and have emotions. And of course, the Doctor understands that, right? That was his whole arc during Voyager. And he said, we all have an opportunity to grow beyond our programming.
I like that line a lot.
And that's just life. I mean, I've been through it. I'm still going through it, but it's true. Like, it's one of those things where there's always an opportunity to grow no matter what. And I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that line a lot with Zero. And Zero just seemed hopeful. in that moment. And of course, they're wanting to go through the wormhole to save Chakotay. And then it's like, and then that's it. Let's go to part 2.
The time hole, as Dow calls it.
The time hole. Yeah. It was a pretty one.
Yeah.
It was very pretty. I liked the look of it. And it was funny because, you know, we're starting to kind of, I mean, this is of course the very first episode, and that's why they had a lot of part 1s and part 2s, because they were connected in some way. So this one was definitely where we're like, what's going on in part 2? So do you have anything to add from this first episode?
Well, I liked that, like, right out the gates, this season is not season 1, right? Like it sets itself up very much apart. Like it didn't feel like it was just, you know, treading ground that they'd been on before. Yes, there's follow up to the events from season 1, but I think they did a great job of still making it fresh. And not like, again, like they're just going down the same path again, especially when you're dealing with, you know, what was the comment I saw online that about Prodigy, where Prodigy is made with kids in mind, but it's not a kids show. And I thought that was a great way to word it. So by keeping things progressing and just not rehashing and you know, they're still trying to make it back to the Federation. Again, kept it fresh and you know, keep those kids interested.
Yeah, and keep us interested, right?
Yes.
Because we want to see something prolong and, you know, continue with the story. So no, I think they did a good job about that. But then that's what puts us in part 2.
Chakotay wouldn't allow Starfleet to be annihilated. His plan was to commandeer the ship, but his first officer fell in battle. Time was short. He couldn't fly it, so he did the next best thing.
I don't know if anyone will ever find this, but if they do, I may not be coming back from this one. Tell Catherine I'm sorry, Soul. But I'm doing this for you.
So, of course, this is where we see why Janeway is trying to get to Chakotay. I mean, the kids, of course, had to sneak around and try to figure out what was in Shuttle Bay 3 that the Doctor, of course... And I love that Zero said, the Doctor's not a good actor. Which was a nice callback. But, and of course...
Well, it's funny because that whole scene where he's like, yeah, I'll meet you at Shuttle Bay 3. I mean, 2. There's no Shuttle Bay 3. Like,
yeah.
That whole scene, at first, when I watched it, I'm like, is he trying to get them to go there? Like, is he trying to hint, like, drop little hints to get them interested in it? But no, he's the Doctor's just that bad of an actor.
He's just that bad. He's just the Doctor. Yeah. And I loved how Zero goes to Dal and was like, you're right. They do have a secret mission, but that's where Dal just gets himself in trouble, right? He is just wants to be involved in everything and doesn't take the time to just sit back and enjoy the moments. And I think that's why him and Rock were butting heads this entire time, because she just wants to enjoy the moment. She wants to do what she's always dreamed about, right? That's why she didn't want to really get involved. And it was really nice just to see, them trying to, figure things out. And of course, Murph messes up a little bit. I mean, Murph is Murph. We can't put any blame to him. But then, of course, the first officer and the counselor and them, and they're just not even noticing that the kids are in the room, even though Jankum was loud. It was just kind of like one of those comedies from the 80s, like the 70s and 80s, like all the shenanigans going down.
The trope of like something dropping and almost
and almost hitting them.
I think it was done like they knew what they were doing, right, when they were making that scene, and I think it worked.
It did work because it was in the middle of something serious, and it's always good to break those serious moments up with something funny. And I even liked that Zero even mentioned to Jacob, like, are we trying to get caught? Like, are we? I love Zero. Zero is like my favorite character. I really enjoyed their story this season.
They do a good job of just saying stuff how it is. Yeah,
they're like, excuse me, why are you even talking? Like, we're not going to be quiet. You're stating the obvious. Just stop. Now I did like another Picard reference while Gwen was reading, the first contact stuff, and it's like, I haven't seen that, much reading since Picard, and it was just like, oh, that boy can't get away.
So
from
did
him.
they really travel all the way to her planet in just a shuttle? Like,
it's probably a roundabout. Maybe the shuttles are now more advanced.
A runabout. They left like 6 months prior to. Like, it took them. So is there a bathroom?
Well, according to Jacob in one of those episodes, yes, and they had to get out of there.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah. I forgot. See,
I was like, we got to
thought of everything.
They thought of everything. Yeah. Of course, as Gwen is trying to go to Sullum and explain to her people who don't even know who she is yet, and of course, Essentia beats her to it. Essentia, I think maybe I should pass this off. How would you just describe this character?
She doesn't know what she's doing.
She doesn't know what she's doing.
I feel like you and I had this conversation while I was working my way through this season, and I'm like, did she just make a comment she did at this? I don't want to spoil anything because it's later in the season. Well, yeah. I'm sure we'll talk about it, but I'm like, did she just say that? And you're like, I think they're trying to make her seem like she's in over her head. And I'm like, definitely.
You did reach out. I was like, I think that was the point.
Yeah. And I feel like she's just like, she's evil for evil's sake. Yeah. Right? Like, I struggled with her motives a little bit, but I think, again, that was the point, is that, right. I mean, the world right now has a lot of that, and I think that's what it's kind of, Trek is always best when it's shining a light on real world issues. Right. And just because it's an animated show doesn't mean it can't do that. So I think it's definitely shining a light on a lot of the ignorance going on, and that's maybe a bit of a showcase there on the show, but I could be reading too much into it.
Well, I mean, and I think that's the whole point with Trek, that you read into it of how you see it. Like the way I see Beverly Crusher doesn't mean that everyone else sees Beverly Crusher the same way. It's how you read into it and how you enjoy it. I think what threw me off a little bit about Essentia is that in season 1, she was very cruel, right? And we didn't really, we kind of knew the motive, and it was the same as, what's Gwen's father's name? Eleutherian? And the diviner.
Yeah.
That's easier. But he, it was like, oh, the Civil War destroyed us. We have to stop, the outsiders from coming in. Great. Cool. She was more cruel than he was, right? That's why they had the whole Darth Vader moment at the end. And so she's like Palpatine and he was Darth Vader. And the thing is that now that they're going into her story and where she's like, we have to stop these people, she really doesn't give them much. She's just telling them, well, this is how it is. And they're like, okay, and I don't know. It threw me off a little bit, where I'm thinking, is she doing this because she wants to save her planet, or is she just wanting to just...
Well, I think part of the reason that I struggle with her motivation is because I think her character lost the motive, right? Like they lost the plot. They didn't even know what they were doing. Because even once she introduces her younger self, even right in this episode. Yeah. And even her younger self is like, you're crazy. Like there's, how am I going to turn into that? Like, yeah.
I don't know. That's her whole story. She's just evil. Like, that's just it. With no motive, really. I mean, that's just kind of how I saw her. But I did like seeing Gwen's dad, however you pronounce his name, the diviner, just as a simple astronomer wanting to see the stars. I really like this complete 180 to his character, where you're like, I like this guy.
I don't know why he reminded me of Geppetto. Like from Pinocchio. He wasn't building wooden puppets, but I don't know. He just had like a Geppetto Like you just
He
want him
was
to be your
just
you want him to be your grandfather. That's
yeah, he just
right.
was
Yeah.
nice and sweet. And that's I think what threw off Gwen, because she's like, do I trust you? Even his little sidekick that I always call it General Grievous. Yes, I'm going to be dropping a lot of Star Wars puns. I'm sorry, but
That's all good.
who remind me?
Dreadnought. Yeah.
Yes, he was all nice, and she's like, "Oh, sorry," And she's like, reminded me of someone else. Like she didn't know how to handle it, And so
when Dreadnought first came in, I was like,
yeah. I knew he was good though, because he's all white.
Of course, he's not red.
Old Dreadnought was
right. Yeah,
he's not all
if they're not red, then they're
looking.
good. Yeah,
yeah, but yeah, it was. I liked that part of it, and yeah, and then of course going back to the ship with the kids and Dal and everything, he just has a big mouth and caught Magel's attention.
Yeah,
as we're doing our little mission, and of course. And then that was another thing where I was like, I really hate these Nova Squadron kids, because like, just back off. Like, because all of a sudden she's like, I got to stop them. Why? Why? Because you're jealous and you're just pissed off.
Well, she's like, you're at the one point, she's trying to remember if it was that episode or the one after where she catches them getting on Infinity.
It's this one.
This one. Okay. Yeah. And she's like, oh, you're hijacking a ship that has cloaking, whatever, and it's like, which is illegal. All of this is illegal, and it's like, what do you get? You're on Janeway's ship. You're a guest.
Like, well, that's a perfect point. They didn't bring it in. It was on Janeway.
Right. He didn't pull it out of his pocket. I don't know where.
No.
Yeah.
That's where I'm like, she's a Vulcan. And she's being a little too logical in this sense. But yeah, I was.
Well, so why did that ship look like a drop ship from Starship Troopers? Like it didn't look anything Starfleet remotely.
I think that's why.
Maybe.
I think that's why.
The point.
They didn't want. That's the point.
Plausible deniability.
Exactly.
It's not us. Look at all our ships look the same.
Exactly. The Federation's gonna be like, "What's going up?" I don't know what that is. New species. We haven't met yet. I mean, seriously, I think they literally done everything. Any questions these fans got? Like, perfect example. Why does Jack Crusher have an accent? Episode 3. Well, we were in London.
Yep. Went to school in London and it stuck. Done.
And it's stuck. They thought of everything. Oh man. Oh, that was a good one. Anyways, so I mean that was a good two-parter to kind of get us engaged and and want us to know what was going to happen next, which of course the third episode would be. And I love this little reference, is that instead of who watches the Watchers, it's who saves the saviors.
How did the Protostar get back last time? Oh, perhaps it was us who were always here to help them.
A curious observation. It would not be the first instance of a causal time loop in Starfleet history. The Bell riots, the Cochrane warp test.
I don't know what just came out of her mouth, but if we're the ones who were supposed to start this jailbreak, then we gotta figure it out fast.
He's like, I don't know.
I love it. The way he delivers those lines is great.
It's like, I don't, you know what it reminds me of? Was it Chris Tucker? Do you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? It's like that moment where he's just like, I don't know what you're saying. You're speaking technobabble, and I don't have time for this.
Also, I love there's another Voyage Home throwback here with she's got the bandana covering her ears like Spock. Yeah. Loved it.
Oh my gosh, I loved it. And I think, is this the one where we actually got introduced to Jillian? I don't know if it was this one or the next one. It was probably the next one, but when I remember them mentioning the whale, because they're on the ship, and the whale is talking to Rock like, do you want to talk about it? And she's like, not now, Jillian. And it just cracked me up because I instantly was like, is that George and Gracie's kid or their granddaughter? What's going on? And sure enough, it's their granddaughter. And
Also,
I
they
like that they
talk
named it Jillian.
like Dory talking whale in Finding Nemo.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I know. And I was like, and they speak whale. It was perfect. Jumping the gun, but I had to throw that out there. I think, though, I loved that scene, and I had to clip it because she's mentioning, the Bell riots and and the warp test and stuff like that. Because, yeah, it happened, and even though they didn't know it happened, they were part of it to make it happen, right? And the same thing. What was it that I was thinking of? That I was like, oh, they were part of that too, and then it had to happen, but. That's usually how it goes. Like, you think there's something, oh, you can't change history. Oh, it was season 5 finale with the Davidians. They go to the 1800, like 1891 as TNG.
Time Zero.
Thank you. That was the whole point, right? He had to go back there so he could meet Guinan and let everything fall into place. She knew that was going to happen. Data's head had to show up. Like, everything had to happen for a reason. This was the same exact thing. So that's why Zero was like, oh, maybe it was us that helped him do it. And I loved how they just ingrained that into not only the episode, but the season. Like, it was always these little things that were just like, there was a whole reason for it. And of course, they're threading this on purpose for the big reveal in episode 9, which we will talk about. But I did enjoy. But they found Chakotay. He's no longer just a video. He's actually there with his first officer. They're trying to figure it out. I kind of cracked up with Jake. I'm really trying hard not to do the bird puns, and he didn't do it. But then they're all like not sure about saving him too soon. What's going to happen? I mean, it's a whole just lot going on.
Timey-wimey stuff.
Timey-wimey stuff. Yeah. What was your favorite part about this episode?
Honestly, it was Chris from Shelf Nerds and I were interacting back and forth around the time I was watching this season. And we were actually talking about Chakotay's character. And I think my favorite part of this episode, and it carries through the rest of the season, is I always felt Chakotay was a bit two-dimensional as a character. There wasn't much
which you mentioned in the Tuvix episode. Yeah.
There's not a whole lot of development with him. And I feel like, whether you like or dislike Chakotay, I think he got a lot of growth this season. And then this first episode, you kind of see him a little different than we've kind of seen. I think his character has always been kind of bland. And I think that was more the writing versus the acting, I think, on Voyager. Cause like, every other character got so much growth on Voyager, right? God, even Neelix. but Chakotay kind of just stayed where he was, I think, through most of the season, and now you're seeing him. I want to say a little more authoritative. I don't know. More like the Starfleet side of it. And I mean, that's not to say Chakotay didn't have some good moments in Voyager, because I think he really did. And I told you I'm doing a rewatch of that show, and I've tried to pay a little more attention to Chakotay, and I do like when he's stands up to the Maquis crew in that show and tries to instill the Starfleetness.
Yeah.
But I like that. I think that this is the first time I saw Chakotay in kind of a new light. I started to enjoy the character a little more. And it started the episode.
Right. And I think too, his first officer was Adric. Is it? Maybe? I don't know. Someone's name Adric. But I think there was a good balance between those two characters. And I think that's what made it different. He had this first officer we never saw before. Little different than Chakotay. Chakotay's pretty relaxed, right? Even though he could be authoritative when he needs to, he's not this, banging the whip kind of thing, like get to work kind of. Like, he's very chill with his workers, right? Or his crew. And his first officer, though, was a little bit more stern, so they had a good balance. which is why I think the loss of his first officer later on in the season was so hard for him, because he lost that balance. And then trying to understand why these kids show up and everything like that. But Chakotay is just like, let's go for it. Let's just do it. We want to get out of here. And his first officer is just like, I don't know. And for good reason. But then that also goes kind of at the same time of what's happening with Gwen as she's fighting Essentia and, trying to convince the whole council and all that stuff of what she's saying is true. I know that there's this timey-wimey interesting situation going on for Gwen, but I'm wondering how she became the main point of being stuck in that paradox. Like, what made it with her caused her to be the one to get stuck, right? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, what was so special about Gwen? Because the moment that the kids accidentally messed up and Chakotay took off with the protostar instead of taking it off without him.
Because I think she wouldn't have been born.
She shouldn't have been born, right? But instead of her just disappearing because that happened, she got stuck in that paradox.
Because time hadn't also decided if they had failed yet. If that makes sense.
Whew, timey-wimey stuff.
Yeah, I don't...
It's that's where I got confused. I was like, but why didn't it happen to anyone? Like, why was it Gwen? What was it about Gwen that's causing this whole situation?
Right.
Is it because...
But also, even with the rest of the Protostar crew, none of them would have got to the Alpha Quadrant.
Right.
Right? So how come they weren't affected? But still, I mean, it's timey-wimey stuff in Trek never makes sense. And I think that's also the point. So...
True. Don't overthink it. Is that what you're telling me?
Right. Yes. I always like the episode with in Voyager where they're all sitting around the table in the briefing room, and Tom Paris is saying something. He's asking a bunch of questions about time, and he's like, am I making any sense? And Janeway's like, no, but that's okay.
So basically it's the same thing. Yeah. Okay.
And even Janeway, I think in a later episode in the series says something about, when it comes to time paradoxes, her rule is to not try to make sense of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's true. I did and they mentioned this in the next episode because they realized, okay, the kids messed up. How are we going to stop this? And of course, then that's when we see that, something's affecting Gwen. But the very last scene you see is Murph is talking to something. I thought it was Chakotay. I was all, who was he talking to? Because it was that's why my thing says the mysterious ghost. Because I thought that maybe Chakotay somehow got through. And that's where, he was trying to get Murph to help so then they wouldn't abandon the whole situation.
Wrong.
Wrong. Very wrong. But it's fine. But I liked how Murph is so cute. He's just trilling of in amazement and doesn't know how to take all this information. And Murph reminds me so much of R2-D2. Again, another Star Wars reference. I'm sorry, but
it's all good. It's what I think this is the way I see it. Star Wars references I think are appropriate for the show because I view this show as Star Trek's Clone Wars. That's the way I view this show. I think it's got those dark undertones, but it's again it's got kids in mind. The animation is really good, just like Clone Wars was. To me, that's the way I look at this show. So bring on the Star Wars references.
Bring on the Star Wars. So it's funny because I actually saw more of, but now I'm drawing a blank. Oh my gosh, I'm tired. I'm pulling a 6-day this week. Rebels.
Those are fun. Yeah.
Star Wars Rebels is what I was thinking about a lot.
Or maybe a combination of the two.
Or a combination of the two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But I don't know why, but Murph just reminds me of R2-D2. And there was a reference later on in the season that I was like, that's R2. we'll get to. But this next episode, Temporal Mechanics, I think really set the tone for how the season was going to go.
It appears the console is malfunctioning.
How interesting.
Save Gwen? Where'd that come from?
Save her? How can we do that if she's 52 years in the past?
Unclear, but we are receiving coordinates that lead to somewhere on this planet.
Is this message coming from Voyager?
If this message wasn't sent from Voyager, who was it from?
I definitely got disengage vibes on this scene from Picard.
Yes, I was just thinking I have to mention that. So that's
we
great.
mind melded, Jay. This is why you're here.
Yep. The whole the Raffi and Worf back and forth. Yep.
Where we don't know who it is, and you're talking to it, and it's like no, or it's like saying, you know, these different sayings that confuse you, and you're like, I don't understand. I liked this because this really got Dal to, okay, we messed up. Gwen's in trouble. How are we going to fix this? We got to go save her. And as much as Janeway wants to help, she can't, which I think that this is where we, is this the one where she talks to Jellicoe, or is that the next episode? I think that was the next episode where she talks to Jellicoe, where he's telling her to stop because she's trying to save Gwen, which we'll talk in a little bit. But I think for them now Dal has that motivation to go, okay, we messed up. Now Gwen might die because of my mistake, because he left that gun. That was the whole reason that changed the whole thing. He left that phaser rifle. Chakotay picked it up, jumped in the ship, and took off. And then, of course, they're flipping to Gwen going in and out because her quantum signature is misplaced, and her father shows up. And then she's also hearing this voice, like, stay together. And I'm thinking it's Chakotay, because I'm all like, why is he trying to get everyone to stay together, and what is going on? I'm sure he wants them to find him, but how does that work with Gwen being stuck at two places at once? Right. So this is where, like, that timey-wimey stuff, as we were talking about earlier, was getting really into my head. I was like, I don't understand. And I don't think I'm ever going to. Which is fine. But I did love the little scene, though, between her father and Gwen, because he was just worried, and he was just happy he had a kid. He was all like, but I'm here, you know, and he made references. He's like, well, I wasn't that bad of a dad. And she's like, it's complicated.
You were kind of Hitler. I'm not wrong.
You're not wrong. Oh my gosh. I did like, though, when Dal is like really not understand. He's like, no, I did not read, Temporal Mechanics 101, because they've been saying that the last 3 episodes. And then when Janeway was like, how do I help? He's like, can you send me the information on Temporal Mechanics 101, please? Where we see Dr. Aaron. That was cute. I liked that we got to see her portray herself really as a Starfleet officer.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was definitely a good moments. And we also got the doctor saying, I'm a doctor, not an exorcist. I mean, was
this the episode 2 where he like gets all the way through Temporal Mechanics 101 and she's like, okay, now for 102 or 201 or whatever it was.
Yeah, 201. Yeah. And he gets through it, but like, no. And the thing is that he gets through it. And when they do find Gwen, because, they're trying to get their ship to get there, and they're like, we got to build a time machine. They're like, oh yeah, that's great. And when they do get to Gwen, he says something to Gwen's dad. And I remember it was like Zero and like all of them looked at him like, and he's like, Yes, I know about TeePublic Addicts 101. Like, it was like this long-running joke for 4 episodes, and it finally hit its pitch, but it was like perfectly done at the
They were
right
just
moment.
setting that punchline up for 4 episodes.
Setting it for up
Great.
until Gwen. Yeah. But it was perfect. I did like that. I do kind of want to talk about a little bit where I'm calling it the West sphere of that talking ball of energy to Janeway saying, "Do not go in." I mean, everyone's watched the season. It was Wesley. Okay. So Wesley was busy, right? He's don't go in the wormhole yet. Don't do this. But you got to save Gwen. Okay, your ship's not flying. I'll fly it. I'm going to talk to Murph. I'm going to No wonder he was a little all over the place when they found him. He wasn't sure where they had landed, right?
Yeah. That scatterbrained.
That scatterbrain.
Yeah, I rewatched your interview with Aaron. And I like that whole part where you're talking about how Wes was a little confused through it, and
ADHD.
he had
is what he called it. I was like, yeah, typical Thursday for my kid.
Same.
Same.
Yeah. What was I saying?
You were talking about Aaron.
Oh yeah, and I also like because even in Coda, like he had a little bit of that going on too.
Yes.
Through the novels, where he's like, oh right, we're not there yet, or something.
We're not there yet.
Yeah, in the book, because things happened in different order, right? Like first time they come across Wesley is like his older self at the end of his life,
like 300
and then
years old.
Yeah, and then it's younger Wes comes and gets what's the device that he's got? That's like a tricorder.
It was like a little ball. It was a little sphere thing. Yeah.
The something cron or something. I can't remember, but that his older self
that.
made for his younger self, really. But yeah, like the parallels between this and Coda, and again, I think Aaron had said they had never read it, so he didn't even know. But to me, what that tells you is that I think there was a very clear path for the story of Wesley Crusher and kind of where it would go. So it's interesting again that 2 different parties came up with a similar story, because I was watching the season and I'm like, have we just tried to canonize Coda a little bit?
Which is fine by me.
Absolutely, it's a great story.
Just please don't have Beverly see Wesley die like 3 times. Let's just not do that. I'm glad they didn't, but still. Maybe that's why she says she lost Wesley. Oh, shoot. Crap.
Oh boy.
She saw an older version of Wesley die in those 20 years. Well, I just ruined my night. Who knows if they'll do that. But no, I did get Coda vibes while I was watching this season, especially because of all the strange things that were happening. You didn't know what was going on. Definitely got Doctor Who vibes for the same reason. Like, you just didn't know what was going on. And we even had mentioned River Song because there was those moments of, oh, we haven't been here yet. So that's why she had the book. She had her diary for a reason. Like, where are we today? Because she couldn't keep track of where she would meet the Doctor. That's what he needed. He needed a diary. He needed a book.
Yeah.
Missed
opportunity. What I think is interesting is and again, I haven't watched Doctor Who, but I could still see all the influences, right?
Yeah.
So I just thought it was interesting that they nailed all these amazing Doctor Who influence, like you could see it in there, and then Coda, like the similarity was just completely on accident, right? Like
on accident.
Yeah.
And I even mentioned this because the writers of the book and the show are fans. And I think we all kind of came to that conclusion of where Wesley should be as a traveler. Just all over the place, scatterbrain. It makes sense that he can't keep track with one thing over another. So,
well, it's not like, and I remember Aaron saying, like, in your interview, like, he's not a Q. That's much more advanced, right? But even still, like, Qs run around and just, they're like Loki, like they just mess with shit all over the place.
Yeah.
Where Wesley, it's more of a job, right?
Yeah.
His job is to make sure that the timeline goes as it's supposed to.
As it's supposed to, and
Yeah.
he has a purpose.
Yeah.
You know, so, and this was
I mean,
part of
he has direct reports, right? He's got the supervisors.
He does. Shh. We're not supposed to know about the supervisors.
That's
Shh.
right. That's right.
They don't exist. Okay. Now, of course, the next episode, I think, really kind of put a nice little bow on these first 5 episodes with their episode Observer's Paradox.
Wait, computer, go back.
What's the origin of this symbol?
A petroglyph used among descendants of the Omotepe rubber tree and Nicarao people who now inhabit the ex-Federation colony on Trevis.
Bring up the list of inhabitants.
Great. Let's go ask every single person on an ex-Federation colony.
Wait. Computer, are any of the names on this list in Starfleet?
There is one former resident missing in action.
Captain Chakotay.
This is why I thought it was Chakotay this whole time. I feel like it was just all lining up to go.
That it was
find
Chakotay.
him.
Also, was
Yeah.
that the colony from the TNG episode
I think so.
with the Native Americans?
No, didn't. So at first I thought it was because they said it was a non-Federation colony, right?
Well,
Which is like that-
Federation. So
or ex-Federation. So they used to be, but no longer, right? Like in
that's who they would be, right? So the one episode in TNG where there's the natives that they're trying to move.
Journey's End.
Yeah, because of the DMZ, right?
And but didn't they have a Voyager episode that talked about Chakotay and his people being misplaced or moving around? Was that the same? I don't think I ever really
I don't know.
cross-referenced that. Well, now I'm doing some studying.
Well, I feel like if anybody's who's watching should put in comments and let us know.
I mean, help us out here. Where's
Right.
Jorg when you need him?
He's on Twitter.
I mean, he's on Twitter. But I think because at this point they went and saved Gwyn and they brought her in. This is that Jellicoe scene where Jellicoe finds out. And I was so excited. They were referencing Jellicoe, but to actually see him and I heard Ronnie Cox's voice, I was all...
He was in season 1 also, right? I think he had an episode
Jellicoe?
in season 1. Yeah.
Did he?
I think so. I think there was a
All I
clip,
remember is
just
Beverly
at the end of the season. I really wish I had rewatched season 1.
I know I should have too.
I did watch it twice, but it's been a while.
It's been a while. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I guess I just wasn't expecting it, you know? So I enjoyed that part. And of course, he's always the bearer of bad news. And he has to tell her, no, we can't go after Chakotay. It's too dangerous. You know, so sorry, Gwen's going to die, but we have bigger problems. Like, it was just kind of like, sorry. And that was the scene where I started laughing and I tweeted about this because I was cracking up, where she's all like, what's Jellicoe's first Edward? Is it Edward? She's like, Edward, I can't hear you. And then it cuts off. And then her bridge officer looks at, she's like, what? I wasn't lying. Like, I was all like, I am so a Janeway. That's so
She totally pulled a, we're going through a tunnel.
tunnel. You know, I was laughing so hard at that scene. I was like, oh my gosh, I love Janeway.
I'm so glad Kate Whitmore is just back.
I know.
So
and
glad.
what it's awesome too is that because season 1 we saw her as the hologram Janeway. So she had to be very Voyager Janeway. Right? Just like when Gates came back in Kobayashi, she had to be very TNG Beverly because that was the character they were playing. As for, you know, especially for Kate coming into she's Admiral Janeway. Like now she gets to be a more experienced, a more, you know, distinguished character than she was. Everything that she's gone through, everything that she's learned, this is what's gonna happen. But she still has those little quirky moments, you know, especially with her coffee and all that stuff. And even I think it was episode 2, because, you know, Dal and Janeway had switched bodies at the end of one. And he thought coffee was disgusting. And then when she's interrogating them, he was all like, oh, this is so much better with sugar. Like those little details they threw in was so, but it wasn't like a shoehorned in. It was like perfectly well balanced to add stuff that happened in season 1 and continue into season 2, because these characters are still going through this process, this story. So, and I think for Kate, just being Janeway herself, she gets to do Janeway just a little bit differently. And I think that's just so great to see and be able to just want more Janeway, right? So,
yes, more Janeway, please.
More Janeway.
We
and
need a Star Trek Janeway.
We do. This, of course, I really did enjoy. Poor Gwen, not sure what's going on. The doctor made that device, which I think was the device that they had for Timescape. That the armband thing, like in Timescape, where Geordi and Troy, Picard, and Data, where everything was frozen. Like Beverly got shot by the Romulans, and it was these little.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's the armband thing, right?
Yeah, or like a more advanced
version of it.
Yeah.
And to kind of keep her quantum signature in place. And I just liked those details. And then, of course, like I said, this 5th episode really just kind of paved the way to like, oh, they're going to find Chakotay. They're going to understand why they, But to me, it was all like, but what's going to happen in the next 15 episodes of just trying to find Chakotay? Like, it was kind of, I wasn't really sure where it was going to go. Did not see where it was going. And I was pleasantly surprised. But I think because we were so focused on Chakotay and this whole timey-wimey situation, the whole Essentia thing was kind of lost to me.
Yeah.
Like her whole name just wasn't as big as the whole situation that was happening with Wesley, right? Even though they were trying to stop her, she wasn't really the big threat.
Yeah.
Threat was trying to get the protostar where it belongs and saving Chakotay at the same time. So I don't know. That's just me.
Again, like she didn't know what she was doing. She was so in over her head. She just was trying to go with the flow and failed every way she could.
Yeah. I wanted to mention real fast that they mentioned the Cerritos from the doctor. I haven't seen this dysfunctionality since the Cerritos, which means he was on the Cerritos.
You're right. We do have another season coming.
We have another season. We'll see how that goes. And actually, I did write in my notes, this is the episode where she interrogated him with the coffee and the sugar. So this was actually the episode. So perfect. Majel, of course, ditches them. Even though they came back together, she went to go sit with her Nova Squadron, which I could understand why. Well, here's the thing. She just went through life and death with these people, at least some of them. And then she's all like, no, I have to go to, to her people, whatever. And of course, they don't know what had happened.
Well,
so she was kind of feeling conflicted.
She's confused because she's also developing feelings for Zero.
For Zero, yeah.
Yeah. Right? So I think there's a lot going on. It's a tough age, right?
It is a tough age, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think she just wanted to not disappoint her. I mean, the Nova Squadron was always like a crew in their own, right?
Yeah.
And now here's this other crew, and she's kind of feeling conflicted because, yeah, she just went through something with these people. So she kind of bonded with them, like, and they went and saved Gwen and did all that stuff.
Yeah, that loyalty to her squad, right? And then
right, yeah, and her squad doesn't understand; they weren't there, right? No. So they don't understand just what was going on yet. Now, of course, we do have the Murph malfunction when they're trying to figure out who did Murph talk to, and they wanted him to speak, and he was saying all this random stuff. I feel like I don't know. He was saying such random things and he's running around like crazy. I thought that was hilarious. Then, of course, they needed Jillian, the whale, to help translate. And then Murph became some kind of a mermaid. But it was very sweet. I think they even did little head nudges. Like, Murph was nervous, but he was happy with Jillian, and Jillian took care of him. It's those cute moments where you're just like, oh. And, of course, this is where they went to Rock. They're like, we need your help. And she's like, I don't want to be involved. She's like, but I'm only doing this to help Murph, right? Like, she has her loyalty to Murph, right?
She's like, I love you guys, but you guys are going to screw up my career here.
I know. She's all like, didn't she say, like, we'll just have to hang signs that says, brig or something like for, she's like, just write signs now that says brig. Like, just put us in the brig. Like, this is what's going to happen. I mean, poor thing. She's caught in a rock in a hard place because she doesn't want to do something wrong and ruin her career, but then she's like, but I also want to have my friends and not have what?
Between rock and a hard place, no pun intended.
That was no pun intended, but a good one. It's those ones where I don't mean to, that works out. And of course, she doesn't want anything to happen to Gwen. That was kind of where they stuck it in her, and they're like, well, Gwen's gonna die if you don't help us. And she's like, well, crap. No pressure. But I do want to do the last moment where they get the numbers from Murph. Gwen puts it in her little device and she's flying through space and she's hearing the mysterious ghost. And did they get coordinates? I'm not really sure what she experienced in that moment, except pain and some voice telling her to find him.
Was it not the same coordinates that were on the console? Was it this episode?
No,
the
the coordinates on the console, that was where to find Gwen.
Right.
So because she was stuck in that same spot, but 52 and she was stuck in both places. So that's how they found her.
Yeah.
But this, she was out in space. Like, she saw where she needed to go, but I just didn't know how she knew how to get there. So I think that was my little confusion. Maybe I missed something. If anyone wants to write in the comments perfectly, please do so, because I do miss these little details. Like, Jorg has been going off on certain things. And I was like, I can't believe they did that. And I missed that. How did I miss that? And it's just, they thought of everything. For sure. So I don't know. I think that's where I was a little confused on that part. But real quick before we wrap this up, I did like the moment between the Doctor and Janeway when they decide to close the wormhole and not go after Chakotay because they have to, right? Janeway is suffering a loss, but so is the Doctor. I think some people kind of forgot that because everyone's like, JC, right? Janeway and Chakotay.
Yeah, also somebody he's known for years as well. Yeah.
Exactly. And it goes back to, we can learn, improve our programming, right? By growing around our programming. And he did. And this is a friend. And he also has to say goodbye. And it was a nice little moment between those two characters that I feel was important. And then of course the kids went in the wormhole.
The time hole.
The time hole. They're like an Isle of Lucy episode. I'm going. Dallas Lucy. Like, I'm saying right now, Dallas Lucy. And I want to say Zero is Ricky. Like, really? No, you know what? I'm taking that back. Rock is Ricky. Zero is Fred. Like, oh, we're doing this again, but follows. And then Jane
or Rock.
No, Rock is
just like, I just want to do science. Leave me alone.
I just want to hang out with Jillian, do my science. Oh my god.
You know what I love about that character is the wide-eyed wonderment all the time. Like when she goes down and she's like, cetacean ops.
Yeah, she was so excited. I mean, they were all excited except for Dal, but I do have to say Dal's was a disappointment. He's just like, and reading. Like,
What it's like, I feel like also
Sports
Dal
mode.
like represents every ADHD kid ever, because it's like
Mhm.
we want to go, right? But no,
Yeah.
you need to slow down. You need to, do the work you have to. No, I want to go, right? Like
I
that's why
wanna
he's not in
go.
class at the beginning. He's out looking at the ships, and
Mhm.
spends the whole, first 3-4 episodes just rebelling against having to read quantum
Yeah.
whatever mechanics 101 time
And
mechanics
he ended
time.
up doing and you know what got him to do it? To save Gwen.
Right.
And that's strictly an ADHD well, it's strictly anything, but I know
Yeah.
from experience from my daughter that if it's something that ends up being super important to her, she's
Yep.
gonna do it.
Absolutely.
So, it was the perfect little part of like, "Okay, I'm gonna learn this." And then, that's why they're making the joke. He's like, "Yes, I understand it now." Um, but yeah, I think that was a perfect part to it. But I thoroughly enjoyed this first 5 episodes. I binged this the first day. I couldn't stop.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I had it done within 2 days. I was working long days
Yeah.
at the time. So,
Yeah. I so happened to have the day off and I was like, all of it.
yeah.
Um,
And I find, you know what?
so
I don't know how you feel, but I much prefer shows week to week, because I feel like your brain has more time to digest
true.
and like mull it over. And I find when I do binge something, I actually forget things that have happened, or everything molds into one. It's like one big
It
episode
does.
instead of.
It does.
Yeah. So like when
Well, like
Picard come out each week, and we were doing the Twitter spaces, your Twitter spaces that you had going on, and we were talking about them, like I felt that was great. But when we just drop a whole season of something all at one time, like it seems fun when you're doing it, but then when it's over in a day, you're like, well, that was not 10 weeks of fun. That was just a day.
it was just a day of fun.
Yeah.
But then, of course, sometimes for me, I'm just like, I have to know now what's going on now, and then I'll watch
Yeah,
it again. I think I
I mean,
rewatched this like 4 weeks or
that's the
4
good thing.
times.
And I said, some shows do work better as a binge.
Mhm.
The Walking Dead. I don't know if you remember me tweeting about that. I
Yeah.
much more enjoyed that show as a binge because you didn't have to wait. But that was a stupid time in television where they like to drag things out, and then they had the mid-season
Right.
finales, and you had to wait 17 years to watch the rest of it.
Right, exactly. And like I said, it works for some and it doesn't work for everything. And I think for this, I think for Prodigy, it was okay, but for podcasters, it's not. All right, guys. So I did have people on Twitter and Threads and all my other places vote. We only got 12 votes, and it seemed the majority of the votes, though, went to the 4th episode, which is Temporal Mechanics at 42%. That was a good episode because that's where they went and saved Gwen, and we kind of were trying to figure out what this timey-wimey mysterious character was. But yeah, not many people voted. Maybe they might vote more and I think it's just because it got progressively better as the season went on. And
Yeah, well, and I
that
don't
was
think I don't think this season had any bad episodes. I think it was just that some
no.
episodes were better than others, which is great.
Yeah.
But I don't remember watching the season and thinking, okay, this episode could end now. Like, let's move it on.
Let's move on. Yeah, no, I think that was kind of the reasoning behind it, but it was a good episode. We were not sure what was happening, and like I said, the very end with Murph and the ghost Wesley got you intrigued. But yeah, I think the season was pretty darn good. Did you enjoy these first 5 episodes? Kept you engaged?
I did, yes.
Yeah.
Very much so.
Yeah, I think it was a very good start to help people really want to know what was happening. And it worked for me because I binged it in a day. So
Well, I think these episodes also do a good job of, like, if you happen to not see season 1, they did a good job of still kind of filling you in on what happened. So
yeah,
because just like Picard season 3, where it's a standalone season, I think that they've set this one up that it can be like that as well. Like, you could just watch season 2, and if your friends were started watching it, you could just jump right in and watch with them and not feel like you were behind. But if that's the case, still go back and watch season 1 because it's also good.
It's also very good, especially I think it was episode 7, which is Kobayashi, which brought back Beverly Crusher.
There we go. There it is. No, you know what? When it came to this show, I remember I was really looking forward to it. Like before season 1 dropped, and I remember being more invested in the show than I thought it would be when it started.
That's what people said. Yeah.
Right. Which is great. I think Aaron and the team did a fantastic job. And, you can see it even in the interview you did with him, just the passion he has for this show and the franchise.
Yeah.
Right. And it shows on screen and
the love for the characters.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He was very good at that part.
Right. And not just the legacy characters that we all hope to see in all these shows, but even the new characters that they've created, right? So
yeah,
I think Picard did that too. I mean, we all love Raffi. Raffi's great, right? And Rios, rip.
And we'd love to hate Shaw.
I love to love Shaw.
I love to love Shaw. We love to hate him, and then we're like, oh, we don't want him to die.
No,
oh, he died.
Spoilers.
Sorry, people, if you haven't seen Picard season 3, I just ruined it for you. He dies.
It's been a year and a half.
I say that with TNG, but I'm like, spoiler alert. It's like, yeah, it was 37 years ago, so I think we're good.
Wait, what do you mean he was assimilated by the Borg? Is he going to be saved? Tune in next time.
Well, that was our redhead alert, and it's because the next episode is going to be, shocker, Star Trek Prodigy, episodes 6 through 10 with Jay. So tune in next week, same time, same place. And yeah, this is where it gets interesting, guys, as you know. And I might talk about episode 9 and 10 for like an hour. So just 6, 7, 8 will be like 10 minutes, and then the rest is all going to be about episode 9 and 10. But I'm excited. This is a really good season. But of course, don't forget to like and subscribe this video so you can get more Crusher Convo content on YouTube. You can buy merch at TeePublic. You could buy me a coffee. You can go to crusherconvo.com for more information. And of course, you can also listen the audio versions of these episodes on your favorite podcast app, which I'm a Spotify girl. And I do like good pods. I'm not going to lie. But Jay, this was fun. I hope you're enjoying this season. And I can't wait for next week. So I think you have anything to say? Anything where they could find you real fast before we go?
Well, I can be found on Twitter. Also on YouTube. I was doing some streaming, some video games, but got a new job and that kind of derailed that. I will tease I do have another project kind of in the works right now with a friend. We're just not at the stage to
launch yet.
Even kind of be a coming soon type thing, but it's hopefully in the next few weeks we'll start nailing some things down and some details and
nice.
But it's coming along for sure, and it is absolutely Trek related. You know all about it, but
I do. I'm trying to play dumb.
But
what are you talking about? Jay,
it is Trek related, and that's all I'll say for now. But follow me on Twitter. But yeah, once we're in a place where we want to talk about this project, I'll start posting on Twitter and stuff. So
perfect, and I will repost it all I can.
Awesome.
So, but yes, thanks you guys. Thanks for watching. Thanks to everyone who was watching. Really appreciate it. Long live and prosper. See you later, guys.
Crusher out.